What's up, Palace Huddlers? We're going to look at who the media has been mocking to the Chicago Bears recently and see who might be that top name. Let's dive into that on this episode of the Palace Huddle. All right. Huddle up. That's right. I'm Rob Schwartz with Bear Goggles On, and this is another episode of the Palace Huddle. And hey, we're getting hot and heavy with less than a month left before the NFL draft. And I thought it was kind of interesting because, a lot of mock drafts are coming out, 2.0s, 3.0s, I think maybe a couple 4.0s when it comes to analysts. And I was curious to see who might be being mocked to the Chicago Bears the most, right? And so, yeah, let's just dive right into this. This is going to be a real quick episode, but I thought it'd be an interesting take here. So there are 16 different drafts that I pulled out here. Some from ESPN, some from CBS Sports, USA Today, Pro Football Focus, NFL.com, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And out of those 16, there are only three names that show up more than once. It's a little interesting, I thought. A little interesting. So only three names that are showing up more than once. I'm going to go with the guys that are only showing up once first, and we'll work our way up to the guys that have been mocked to the Bears more than one time. But before I do, please hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Please leave comments. We love comments here at the Palace Huddle. Tell me who didn't make the cut, right? Let me know in the comments who you think didn't make the cut that should be. Let me know in the comments which one of these guys are the most out of their minds, right? And yeah, it's going to be real interesting to see what people think here about this, or if these guys change up any of their mock drafts prior to the draft, which is, I believe, April 24th off the top of my head. Also, quick reminder that April 6th, we are going to be doing a live mock draft of our own. We'll be going live. We don't do that very often, but we'll be going live, and we hope that you guys can join us in the comments section. Please let us, know who you think we should be drafting. Should we be making trades at certain times? But again, that's going to be April 6th, and you can come check that out and join in on the fun. Yep, wrong image. There we go. Having some issues with StreamYard for some reason, not removing items when I put new items up, and I've just not gotten used to having to remove before putting it up. But again, April 6th, 8:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. So hit that subscribe button so that you know, and the notification bell so that you know when that is going to happen live, and come join in on the fun. All right, back to the media analyst mock drafts. I'm going to start with the one that I don't like the most. All right. This is Daniel Harms of the Draft Network. He has the Chicago Bears drafting Shamar Stewart. Absolutely hate this pick. Absolutely hate it. Shamar Stewart is a beastly prospect. Like I said before, multiple times, he is very much the size of Myles Garrett, the athleticism of not the athleticism of Myles Garrett, but he looks like Myles Garrett. The problem is he doesn't produce like Myles Garrett. 4.5 sacks over his collegiate career, just not enough production. Myles Garrett, I believe, had 37 or 39 sacks over his collegiate career. What Daniel Harms does have to say about Shamar Stewart is bringing in Grady Jarrett was a good start to improving the defensive line. However, Montez Sweat could use a running mate opposite him in Chicago. Shamar Stewart has all the traits, power, and athleticism to be a dominant player in the NFL. If he wasn't dominating in college, I just have this hard time picturing him dominating in the NFL. So, look, I do like Shamar Stewart. I think he is worthy of a late first-round pick. I have a second-round grade on him. I think he's worthy of a late second-round pick, but or a late first-round pick. But I would not be willing to take my chances on him until probably like around 20, 25-ish range. So if the Bears do trade back, then I would think that Stewart could be a potential option. All right, so he is done. We have mentioned him. Let's move on to who I like least next. All right. At 10, Bucky Brooks has the Chicago Bears drafting Omarian Hampton. Omarian Hampton is my RB3. I think I've mentioned that multiple times, but he is in the same tier as where I have Caleb Johnson. I think you can interchange those two pretty evenly. I have them both with a very, late first round, early second round grade to take. And I went and checked it out, made sure he does not have him trading back. He has Hampton going at 10. And I think Bucky Brooks might be the most out of his mind out of all of these guys. Because, look, I am sorry. I like Hampton, but he does not even come. He's not in that tier as Ashton Genty. And if you're going to take a running back, and look, he had Ashton Genty going 6 to the Raiders, which I know a lot of people are mocking. But if you get to 10 and you're going to take Hampton, nope, I will not be happy. That'll be like one of the things I will be extremely disappointed in. I think you could trade back and get him in the middle of the first round pretty easily, towards the end of the first round pretty easily. And I think there's other guys, we've talked about plenty of other running backs who are going to be available in the second round, third round, that it just doesn't make sense to waste that type of draft capital. Okay. What I don't like about Hampton the most, and one of the reasons why I have Caleb Johnson ranked higher, even though Hampton brings a little bit more athleticism, he's twitchier. I don't like his patience and his vision as much, right? He's not a patient runner, and he will outrun his pass blocking too often. And I just don't see why anyone would look to take him at 10 overall. So, Bucky Brooks, you are the most out of your mind, in my opinion, out of the guys that we're going to hear here in this group. Please let me know. Do you agree? Do you think Bucky is the most out of his mind? Obviously, you need to hear the rest of these. The most out of his mind when it comes to these guys. Real quick, what does Bucky have to say about Hampton going to Chicago? His comment was, Ben Johnson's immense success with a 2-back rotation to Detroit could prompt Chicago to expend its top pick on a physical runner to partner with the dynamic DeAndre Swift. First of all, I don't know. I like DeAndre Swift, but I don't know if I would ever use the phrase dynamic when it comes to DeAndre Swift. So right there, Bucky, I don't know what you're doing, what you're drinking, what kind of medication you're on, but please seek help. Seek help. All right, moving on. Next on the list that I like the least is Arman Mebo. Arman Mebo was mocked to the Chicago Bears one time. That would have been by Daniel Flick of Sports Illustrated. And here's the thing. I have made this very clear. I just don't see Mebo as a left tackle. Look, he's got long enough arms to be a left tackle. I think his arms off the top of my head are 33 and a half inches. I don't have my draft board up here for myself, but I think it's 33 and a half inches. I personally agree with the NFL. I would prefer to see my left tackles have 34-inch arms. I prefer to see my right tackles have 34-inch arms. But as we all know, at this point, leading up to the draft, there are not a lot of tackles, prospects that have that length, especially guys who have produced at the collegiate level. It's not a good offensive tackle draft class. A lot of these guys are either going to get kicked inside, which isn't as easy as people think, or there are some outliers. And I do think when it comes to outliers, it's more likely that you're going to see them succeed on the right side than you are the left side. And I'm not willing to take an outlier at 10. I think that draft capital is just way too high. And he's never played left tackle before. So look, I am not taking those, not risking that on a top 10 pick. But just real quick, I do have the comments that Daniel Flick of Sports Illustrated did say here about Arman Mebo going to the Bears. His comments were the Bears addressed their interior offensive line in free agency and added pieces to their defensive front, which gives them flexibility in the first round. 100% agree with that. 100%. Chicago still needs needs help at tackle, and Mebo may be the draft's best. He's athletic, strong, and didn't allow a sack or quarterback hit in 2024. I don't disagree with that. I will say I think Will Campbell's a little bit more athletic than Mebo, but Will Campbell has sub 33-inch arms. We'll get to him in a minute because he is one of the people mocked here. But yeah, again, not a huge fan of Mebo here in Chicago. I am a fan of Mebo as a prospect. So no, thank you, but not as out of his mind as Bucky Brooks. I'm going to keep going back to Bucky Brooks here. All right, next up on the list, who do I dislike the most? Who got one pick? This one here, it hurts me. All right, so Lance Zierlein of NFL.com has Josh Simmons going to the Chicago Bears at 10. Look, I really like Josh Simmons. He just put up 33 reps at his pro day. What concerns me is the knee. If they can get in front of him enough to find out how that knee is doing, get enough of the clearance, the medicals, Josh Simmons would be definitely an option. He is one of those 33-inch arm guys who I do think can succeed as a left tackle. And so the only comments here from Zierlein, which is a little bit weak, says for the second time in 3 drafts, Ryan Poles takes an offensive tackle with the number 10 overall pick. See Darnell Wright in 2023. Obviously, we know how well that has been turning out. The one thing that would be interesting, see, here's the interesting part. Like, we have heard recently that Braxton Jones is progressing well. So if his medical is cleared, then I'm not really too concerned about left tackle. He's upgrading, it needs to happen, but this draft class just isn't it for me. But what's interesting is if I was to do that, I'd rather have someone like maybe Kelvin Banks drafted. I'd even take Mebo, I think, drafted, although I'm not high on that. And I do like Simmons more. And I just obviously put Simmons as the guy I was less upset about. But I don't know. It's just really interesting because to me, I would want someone who is healthy, who could actually, even Will Campbell, who could come in and attempt to play left tackle while Braxton Jones was getting healthy. Now, if Braxton Jones is healthy, maybe then it does make sense to take Simmons because Simmons can be a red shirt for a year or for half a year, and then they compete at some point. But I think having a guy who's healthy come in and give Braxton Jones a chance to fully get healthy makes more sense to me. So I don't hate the idea of Simmons. I just would be hesitant because of the knee injury. And I think because of that knee injury, I do have him ranked lower in my rankings. And I think other teams probably will too, unless, again, maybe at the pro day, they got enough news out of him that they do feel comfortable to move him up. I just think for me, maybe like the 15 to 20 range makes more sense. So again, That's just where I'm at here. Next up is we just mentioned him. We're going to mention him again. Kelvin Banks was mocked to the Chicago Bears one time out of these I think it was 16, I said, drafts. And that was by Pete Prisco of CBS Sports. Okay. Hey, look, I just said I'd rather have Kelvin Banks for the health reasons. I do have him ranked higher right now than I do Josh Simmons. I don't know. I wouldn't hate this. Again, a guy who could be a left tackle, could kick inside. I know I just said, look, it's not super easy to kick inside. Like it's not like this, right? Sometimes it takes a year or two for those guys, and sometimes they don't succeed at all. So another shorter armed left tackle, but a productive left tackle in Texas. Pete Prisco has this to say in regards to the Bears taking Kelvin Banks Jr. They upgraded their offensive line in free agency, but will continue to do so here by taking Banks. They could also consider taking a defensive edge or inside player here, but the push to fix the line will win out. Again, I don't mind it. Like the trenches, Kelvin Banks is a good enough prospect to be considered here at 10. So Pete Prisco, good job, just not one of my favorites. All right, nope, I take that back. I got two guys left who were only mocked once. All right, next up is from Walter Sherpinski. If you don't know that name, he is one of the lead analysts over at Walter Football, and they do a lot of good draft content and a lot of good fantasy football content, actually, too. And Sherpinski is actually typically one of the best mock draft experts, I would say, like the most accurate when it comes to mock drafting. So this is kind of interesting, and I don't hate this idea at all. Who is the guy? I know I'm like teasing it, right? Kenneth Grant, defensive tackle out of Michigan. Okay, Sherpinski has him here going to Chicago, and again, I don't hate it. Defensive lines, they're not like offensive lines. They get a lot of rotation work, right? So, I just released the defensive ends, the top defensive ends video recently. And in that episode, I talked about defensive line rotation and how these guys might fit. Well, same thing with defensive tackles too. And what would, I know they brought in Grady Jarrett, but he's 32. So the chances of him being here for long is not very high. We got my boy Andrew Billings coming back from injury, so we'll see how that goes. But this is what Sherpinski has to say about the defensive tackle Kenneth Grant out of Michigan. The Bears did a great job of addressing their offensive line. They still have some work to do in that regard, but they can now focus on their defensive front. Kenneth Grant has flashed upside and is considered an underrated talent. Some of Charlie Campbell's sources prefer Grant to Mason Graham. It's interesting because both came out of Michigan. I know a lot of people think that a lot of Graham's success is due to Kenneth Grant taking on a lot of double teams and causing some havoc there. Grant is more of a nose tackle than a three technique. So again, I wouldn't hate it. I would be extremely happy and fine with Kenneth Grant at 10. That said, I do have him a little bit lower in my rankings, so I wouldn't mind if they could move back a few spots and get him. That would be ideal to me. Maybe get a little, a third or fourth round pick in return. They don't have a fourth round pick. Maybe they can get a fourth round pick in return. All right, the last guy who was only mocked one time, and then we'll get to the players who were mocked multiple times, which there's only 3 of them. So the one guy left would be Mike Green. Mike Green, defensive end out of Marshall. Chris Trapasso out of CBS Sports is the one who mocked Mike Green to the Chicago Bears. Now, look, Mike Green is my number 2 edge rusher on my board. I have him 8th overall currently. And I would love Mike Green. If we get the Dennis Allen sign off, I have no problem with Mike Green. I know he's a little bit undersized compared to some of the guys that that Dennis Allen has brought in previously. I do worry a little bit about his run stopping ability, his ability to set the edge. It's not as good as, like an Abdul Carter, who's my top prospect in the NFL draft overall. Not even as good as Mikel Williams at setting the edge. So I do have a little bit of fear or concern about Mike Green fitting with Dennis Allen, and we'll see how that goes. But again, if the Bears take him, I'm for it. I have no problem with him at 10. Again, I have him at 8. So Chris Trapasso has Mike Green here. His comments are: the Bears go with a high upside outside speed rusher from Marshall and Green, who has the tools to develop into an all-pro type. Learning from Montez Sweat will aid that process. Again, I have no problem with it at all. All right, before we get to the next group of guys, the 3 that were mocked to the Chicago Bears more than one time, and let's see who was mocked to them the most. Please hit the subscribe button. Okay, if you like draft content, if you love the Chicago Bears, you want to see them do well this year, hit the subscribe button. If you want to leave some comments, definitely hit the comment section. We are all about the comments. Try to continue this conversation onward beyond here. And, I typically try to get back to people within 24 to 48 hours. I know Bob does a really good job. Justin does a really good job also commenting from their personal accounts. So hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and then go to the comment section and let us know how we're doing, what you guys think. Also, this episode is brought to you. That's the wrong one. This episode is brought to you by BetStamp. Okay, you can find the best betting odds. You can find all the best sign-up offers regarding all the sports books in your region. They also have a bunch of fantasy football, fantasy sports content, dailies type stuff over there. So go check those out. You can find our page, and you can support the show by going to signupexpert.com/huddle. Once again, signupexpert.com/huddle. All right. There are 2 guys who were mocked to the Chicago Bears 2 times by different media analysts, and I'm going to go with the guy I like the least and go first, and then go to the guy I like the most second, and then we'll get to the guy who was mocked to the Chicago Bears more than 2 times. There's only one. More than 2 times, there's only one. Will Campbell. Will Campbell was mocked to Chicago Bears 2 times, or by 2 different analysts within the media. We have Ryan Wilson of CBS Sports, and we have Daniel Jeremiah himself, mock draft guru, Daniel Jeremiah of NFL.com. They both have Will Campbell going to the Chicago Bears. I like Will Campbell. In fact, what's interesting is I will have Will Campbell ranked higher on my big board than I do the other guy we're going to talk about. However, if you watched the defensive end episode, I have a big board in general, and I have a Chicago Bears big board, and these 2 guys are flipped. They're in different order for me for the Bears, and only being the fact that I just don't see Campbell being a left tackle. Let's start with Daniel Jeremiah, because I like the other guys' comments a little bit more. I think they're a little bit more humorous. But Daniel Jeremiah of NFL.com says the overhaul of the offensive line is now complete with a new left tackle in place. So he is not concerned about those sub 33-inch arms. I am. I just am. I'm sorry. I think Will Campbell looks great on film. He plays a little bit upright at times, but he plays really, really well. Has great footwork. His hand fighting is fine. His technique is good. But look, history says it's not going to work. And again, I'm not taking that chance. But again, you could kick him inside. But like I've said now a couple times, it's not as easy as it sounds. Look, we just literally saw Skoronski get drafted by the Titans, got kicked inside. I think he plays left guard for them. He had an okay year, but it wasn't great. It wasn't great. And look, I think it's going to take a year, 2, to develop. If you're going to get kicked inside, it's a different type of position. You got to play it differently. And I'm a little concerned there, but we'll keep going here with what Daniel Jeremiah says. It says Chicago's trio of March O-line acquisitions would be a sandwiched or would be sandwiched between 2 top 10 picks in Campbell and right tackle Darnell Wright. Again, not a huge fan of that pairing. Now, Ryan Wilson, I do like what he has to say here, because if you didn't hear the press conference of Will Campbell at his pro day, go check that out. But Ryan Wilson says, Will Campbell has been my OT2 throughout, and while he's not as athletic as Kelvin Banks Jr., he's been incredibly consistent throughout his LSU career. He'll get questions about his sub 33-inch arm length. Again, that's why I don't want him here. But just as he told reporters at the Combine, I'd also encourage skeptics to go watch the tape. Well, I think he basically said it's BS. Okay, he said it's bullshit. So, go check that out if you want to hear his exact words. All right, so Will Campbell now, boom, gone. All right, we got one more guy left before the big reveal. I am much higher on this guy than most. I talk about it in the defensive end episode. It's Mikel Williams out of Georgia. Okay, Mikel Williams out of Georgia. I know it's never going to happen because one of these guys I think is one of the worst mock draft analysts of all time. He used to be the draft expert. Now he is just known for his hair. Yes, that is Mel Kiper of ESPN. Mel Kiper has Mikel Williams going to the Bears at number 10. And then also Ben Standing of The Athletic has the Chicago Bears taking Mikel Williams. Real quick, let's just see what they both have to say. We'll start with Ben Standing out of The Athletic. His comments were signing free agent Daya Odeyingbo. Oh my gosh, Justin, kill me. Sorry. Should not preclude the Bears from pursuing an edge defender, whether they're monitoring a Trey Hendrickson trade or dipping into this deep class. The potential wrinkle is whether new head coach Ben Johnson wants to replicate Jahmyr Gibbs' running back electricity in Chicago. I closed. Give me 1 second here because I closed the Mel Kiper one. I do want to read his just because he is one of the more well-known mock draft analysts. And let's see. Did it log me out? Let's hope it did not. You do have to be an insider to get this. Oh, that's interesting. Wow. I actually didn't notice this, but we'll touch on that in a second. Wow. All right. So this is not the right one. I apologize, everybody. That's Tannenbaum. Tannenbaum has the Chicago Bears trading back with the trading back to 21 with the Steelers and taking Shamar Stewart. Again, 21, I think I'd feel more comfortable with him there. But that's interesting. I didn't actually have Tannenbaum's on my list here. So that'd be an interesting situation. I didn't have time to consider that. But, all right, Mikel Williams to the Chicago Bears. What does Mel Kiper have to say? I've gone offensive line for the Bears in both of my previous mock drafts, but that box was checked in free agency. Chicago traded for guards Joe Thuney and Jonah Jackson, then signed center Drew Dahlman. And while the Bears also added Daya Odeyingbo, I'm still screwing it up, Odeyingbo, and Grady Jarrett on the defensive front, they could still use someone like Williams coming off the edge. They ranked in the middle of the pack last season in sacks with 40, but were 24th in pass rush win rate. Williams is a toolsy prospect who can beat blockers with his speed over power. I actually disagree with that. He is more of a power. He's more of a bull rush guy than he is a speed guy. His 10-yard split actually isn't as bad as I would have thought, but he ran a 4.7 40. So let's not think he's like super fast here. But again, like I said, my defensive linemen don't need to run 40-yard dashes. Okay, that doesn't happen consistently on the football field. But anyway, he missed time with an ankle injury early last season, but still picked up 5 sacks. Given a little more time to develop, he could be a really solid NFL edge rusher. Again, this kind of frustrates me because I feel like his analysis isn't really all that great or accurate. It did slow him down, but he did play in every game. So, yeah. Good job, Mel Kiper. You just ruined my guy that I liked the most as far as defensive ends, most likely still being there, as Abdul Carter most likely won't be. All right, now the big reveal. There is one guy left who was mocked to the Chicago Bears more than one time, more than 2 times. He was mocked to the Chicago Bears 4 times by lead media analysts. All right, Matt Miller of ESPN, Josh Edwards of CBS Sports, Josh Leskewitz, I don't know if I'm saying that right, of Pro Football Focus, and Michael Middlehurst Schwartz, not Schwartz, by the way, Schwartz. Okay, there's a difference, of USA Today. All have the Chicago Bears taking running back out of Boise State, Ashton Genty at number 10. It's not something we have mocked here at the Hallis Huddle quite yet, but do find it interesting, and he is my top running back, and I do have him as a top 5 talent in this NFL draft. But real quick, and then we'll end this, we'll just read some of the comments here regarding Ashton Genty. Josh Edwards of CBS Sports says Chicago has made wholesale additions to its roster, which could allow it to make what would have been considered a luxury selection just a few weeks ago. Ashton Genty is a net positive in both the run and pass game, which should take pressure off of young quarterback Caleb Williams. I completely agree with most of what was said there. Would be a luxury pick, and I wouldn't have a problem with it, even though it's not something I would actually do. But I would get my head around it, and I'd be okay with it. Matt Miller of ESPN says, Genty led the FBS with 2,750 all-purpose yards and could team with DeAndre Swift to give the Bears a fearsome run game. That, along with an interior offensive line that was bolstered with the acquisition of guards Joe Thuney, Jonah Jackson, and center Drew Dahlman, can further aid second-year quarterback Caleb Williams' development. Boom. That's the key here. Getting the running game going so Caleb Williams can succeed even better than he did in his rookie year. Josh Leskewitz out of Pro Football Focus states, Genty is a total package backfield playmaker with an impressive balance, footwork, vision, explosiveness, and big playability, reminiscent of Alvin Kamara. He is a first-round offensive weapon who can succeed behind any blocking scheme. Again, completely agree with those comments. And then the last one, Michael Middlehurst Schwartz out of USA Today. After transforming the team's offensive line and bolstering its defensive front, general manager Ryan Poles said the Bears' spring spending spree really opens the whole board for us. Completely agree, Ryan Poles. Good job. Congratulations. Rather than merely be an additive presence, Genty could be the kind of figure who helps recalibrate the attack, creating big gains by slipping past would-be tacklers or bouncing off of them. Look, Ryan Poles, they talk about it here they're up at Hallis Hall. They want multipliers, right? They refer to guys that they like as multipliers. I see Ashton Genty as a multiplier. So look, again, if he ends up being the guy, I have no problem with it. It's not my cup of tea to take a running back that early, but again, no problem with it if that's the route they decide to take. Because look, Ben Johnson deserves benefit of the doubt being here, and he did a lot of good things with Gibbs up in Detroit. That's it. What do you guys think? Who was the craziest out of all of them? I still think it's Bucky Brooks. Sorry, Omarian Hampton, you do not deserve to go as a top 10 pick. What are you thinking? Jeez. Yeah, what do you guys think? Are there names on here that were not listed? And you're like, how is it possible that out of all of these media analysts were none of these guys drafted or mocked to the Chicago Bears? How is that possible? Who is that name? Put it in the comment section. Put it in the comment section down below. All right, do that. Please hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Come back for more. We got a lot more to go. Until then, I got nothing else. So bear down. Excuse me. Bear down. And nope. Got to get the graphic ready. All right. Bear down and claws up. Come on.